the 2026 rule that can erase your entire Social Security check. Right now, most seniors believe one thing. No matter what happens, Social Security will always send something every month. That belief is about to become dangerously outdated. Beginning in 2026, a major rule change gives the Social Security Administration the authority to withhold up to 100% of your monthly benefit. Not a reduction, not a partial cut. Your entire check can legally be stopped. This is not a rumor. It is not speculation, and it is not limited to people who commit fraud. This rule applies when Social Security decides you were overpaid, even if the mistake happened years ago, even if you reported your income, and even if the error was not your fault. Under previous rules, seniors were usually placed on small repayment plans. $20, $50, painful but manageable. That safeguard is disappearing. Starting in 2026, SSA can recover overpayments immediately and aggressively, leaving some seniors with zero income for months at a time. For retirees living on fixed income, this is not a technical change. It is a survival issue. Missed rent, unpaid utilities, skipped medications, and the most alarming part, many of the people at highest risk have no idea this applies to them. In this video, we'll break down what changed, who is most exposed, and what every senior must do now before this rule takes effect. How Social Security overpayments really happen. Most seniors hear the word overpayment and assume it only applies to fraud. Someone lied, someone hid income, someone broke the rules. That assumption is wrong and dangerous. In reality, most Social Security overpayments are not caused by wrongdoing. They are caused by timing, paperwork, and delayed data inside the system. Here's how it usually happens. You report your income changes by phone or online. You think the system updates immediately, but Social Security often relies on employer reports and IRS data that arrive months or even years later. During that gap, benefits continue to be paid based on old information. Everything looks fine. Until one day, years later, SSA reconciles the records and decides you were paid too much. At that moment, the overpayment is created retroactively. From SSA's perspective, the math is simple. From the senior's perspective, it's a shock. You already spent the money on rent, food, and medical care. There is no reserve. There is no warning. And under the new 2026 rules, there may be no gradual repayment option. What makes this even more alarming is that seniors often did report correctly, but did not keep written proof. Phone calls are rarely enough. Verbal reports don't always survive audits. This is why overpayments feel unfair, because they often are. And in 2026, the consequences become far more severe. The earnings test that triggers most overpayments. There is one rule behind more overpayments than almost any other. It's called the Social Security earnings test. This rule applies to anyone who claims Social Security before reaching full retirement age, usually age 67, and continues to work, even part-time. In 2026, the earnings limit is projected to be around $23,400 per year. If you earn more than that, Social Security is supposed to withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn over the limit. On paper, that sounds manageable. In reality, it's a trap. Here's why. Social Security does not adjust your monthly check in real time based on what you earn week to week. Instead, they often wait for official employer wage reports, usually W-2 forms, which can arrive long after the year ends. That means you can unknowingly receive full benefits all year while working over the limit. Then, months or years later, SSA runs the numbers and declares an overpayment. At that point, the earnings already happened. The money is already spent. And under the 2026 rule, SSA can now recover that money by stopping your entire check. Many seniors believe reporting income once is enough. It often isn't. The earnings test is not forgiving. It does not consider intent. It does not consider hardship. It only considers totals, and it applies retroactively. This single rule is responsible for thousands of seniors being blindsided every year. And in 2026, its consequences become far harsher. The 2026 change that makes this rule far more dangerous. Before 2026, there was at least one form of protection for seniors who were hit with an overpayment. Social Security usually allowed partial withholding. Instead of taking everything, they reduced monthly checks gradually, often $25, $50, or another manageable amount. That protection is ending. Under the new 2026 enforcement rules, the Social Security Administration is authorized to withhold up to 100% of your monthly benefit to recover an overpayment. That means $0, no partial check, no minimum safeguard, no automatic hardship buffer. For seniors living on fixed income, this changes everything. If SSA determines you were overpaid, even due to delayed reporting or system errors, they can immediately stop your entire check until the balance is recovered. That could last months, sometimes longer. What makes this especially dangerous is timing. Overpayments are often identified years after the fact. By then, retirees have no financial cushion. The money is long gone, and suddenly, the only steady income disappears overnight. This is not about punishment, it's about recovery. SSA is under pressure to reclaim billions in overpayments, and the new rules prioritize speed over stability. For seniors, that means one letter in the mail can trigger a financial emergency, even if you did nothing wrong. Understanding this change is critical, because once it's applied, options become limited. Real cases. How seniors lost everything without doing anything wrong. To understand how serious this is, you need to look at what's already happening. These are not hypothetical situations. They are real cases. One example is Margaret, a 73-year-old retiree who relied almost entirely on Social Security. For years, her check arrived on time. Nothing seemed wrong. Then one letter changed everything. Social Security informed her that she had been overpaid for nearly 8 years due to delayed income reporting from a part-time job she no longer had. The total overpayment? Almost $38,000. Margaret had reported her income, but the employer's data reached SSA years later. Under the new rules, SSA reduced her check immediately and warned that full withholding could follow. Another case involves David, age 68. He didn't work at all. His overpayment came from a clerical error, an incorrect birth year in the system that placed him under the earnings test when he shouldn't have been. The result? 4 consecutive months with 0 Social Security income. In both cases, there was no fraud, no deception, no intent, just system delays and administrative errors with devastating consequences. These stories highlight a hard truth. When SSA corrects mistakes, the burden falls on the beneficiary, not the system. And starting in 2026, these outcomes will become more common, not less. The 3 groups of seniors most at risk in 2026. While the 2026 rule technically applies to many people, not all seniors face the same level of risk. According to current enforcement patterns, 3 groups are far more exposed than others. The first group is seniors who claim Social Security early and continued working, even part-time or seasonally. This includes retail work, consulting, gig jobs, or temporary contracts. These retirees are directly affected by the earnings test, and delayed wage reporting makes overpayments almost inevitable. The second group is people receiving SSDI who later attempted to return to work. Trial work periods, income thresholds, and reporting requirements are complex. Small mistakes or delays often go unnoticed until SSA performs a review years later, triggering sudden overpayment claims. The third group includes seniors receiving survivor or spousal benefits while their income increased. These benefits are especially sensitive to earnings changes, and SSA often recalculates them retroactively. What these groups have in common is not wrongdoing. It's exposure to income reporting lag. SSA systems do not update in real time. When income data arrives late, the correction hits all at once. And under the 2026 rules, recovery can mean 0 monthly income. Many seniors in these categories believe they are safe because they did everything right. Unfortunately, the system does not always reward compliance. Knowing whether you fall into one of these groups is critical, because awareness is the first layer of protection. Why SSA errors are found years later, not right away. One of the most frightening questions seniors ask is this: if there was a problem, why didn't Social Security tell me sooner? The answer lies in how the system actually works. Social Security does not monitor your income in real time. Instead, it relies on data from multiple outside sources, employers, the IRS, and other agencies. And those records often arrive months or even years later. When you earn income, your employer reports it at the end of the year. That information then moves through IRS systems before it ever reaches Social Security. If there's a delay, a correction, or a mismatch, SSA doesn't see it right away. During that time, benefits continue as usual. Checks arrive, life goes on, no warnings appear. Then one day, sometimes 5 or even 10 years later, SSA completes a reconciliation review. At that point, they compare what you were paid against what the records now show you should have been paid. If there's a difference, an overpayment is created retroactively. From SSA's perspective, this is routine bookkeeping. From the senior's perspective, it feels like an ambush. What makes this especially dangerous is that silence does not mean safety. Just because years have passed without an issue does not mean your record is clean. Under the 2026 rules, when these delayed errors are discovered, recovery can be immediate and total. That's why relying on time alone is risky. The system has a long memory, and it doesn't forget. What 100% withholding really means in 2026. When people hear that Social Security can withhold 100% of a check, many assume it's temporary or symbolic. It's not. Under the 2026 rule, 100% withholding means exactly that. Your entire monthly benefit can be taken until the overpayment balance is fully recovered. There is no automatic minimum left behind. There is no guaranteed partial payment. And there is no requirement for SSA to spread repayment over time. If your monthly benefit is $1,800, SSA can withhold all $1,800. If the overpayment is $10,000, that withholding can continue for months. For many seniors, Social Security is not supplemental income. It is the primary or only source of income. Losing it completely, even temporarily, can trigger immediate financial crisis. Rent still comes due. Utilities don't pause. Medication costs don't wait. What makes this especially alarming is that hardship does not automatically stop the process. Unless you actively request relief and qualify, the default action is full recovery. This rule shifts the burden entirely onto the beneficiary. Instead of asking, "Can you afford to repay this?" the system asks, "How fast can we recover the money?" Understanding this definition matters because many seniors underestimate the impact. They imagine inconvenience. The reality is total income interruption. And once withholding starts, the clock is already against you. Can you fight back? Appeals, waivers, and deadlines that matter. When seniors hear that Social Security can stop their entire check, the next question is obvious. Is there anything I can do? The answer is yes, but only if you act correctly and on time. Social Security overpayment cases offer two main paths: appeal and waiver. They are not the same, and confusing them can cost you. An appeal challenges whether the overpayment is valid at all. You are saying the calculation is wrong, the income was reported correctly, or SSA made an error. Appeals must usually be filed within 60 days of the notice. A waiver, on the other hand, accepts that the overpayment exists, but asks SSA not to recover it because it was not your fault and repayment would cause financial hardship. Waivers also have deadlines, and they require documentation. Here's the critical detail many seniors miss. If you do nothing, SSA proceeds automatically. Withholding begins, and under the 2026 rules, that withholding can be total. Filing an appeal or waiver on time can pause or limit recovery while your case is reviewed. Missing the deadline removes that protection. This process is not intuitive. The letters are dense, the language is technical, and SSA does not explain strategy. But knowing these options and acting quickly can mean the difference between temporary disruption and months with no income at all. 5 steps every senior must take now to protect their check. At this point, awareness is not enough. Protection requires action. There are 5 steps every senior should take, not later, but now, to reduce the risk of losing their entire Social Security check in 2026. Step 1. Verify your date of birth in Social Security records. A single incorrect year can place you under the earnings test when you shouldn't be. Step 2. Review your earnings record every year. Compare SSA's record with your own pay stubs and tax documents. Small discrepancies today become massive overpayments years later. Step 3. If you are working, report income changes in writing, not just by phone. Keep copies. Verbal reports often leave no audit trail. Step 4. Open and read every letter from SSA immediately. Overpayment notices have strict deadlines. Missing them removes your right to pause recovery. Step 5. Keep proof. Save W-2s, 1099s, reporting confirmations, and correspondence. Documentation is your only defense if a dispute arises years later. None of these steps require legal expertise. None of them cost money, but skipping them can cost everything. These actions don't guarantee you'll never face an overpayment, but they dramatically increase your ability to fight back and to keep income flowing when mistakes happen. Preparation is the only leverage seniors have left. The three most dangerous mistakes seniors still make. Even after learning about the 2026 rule, many seniors remain exposed, not because they don't care, but because they repeat the same three mistakes over and over. The first mistake is believing Social Security already knows. Many retirees assume that because they reported income once or because they receive benefits automatically, the system is fully updated. In reality, SSA systems are fragmented. If information isn't reflected in the earnings record, it may as well not exist. The second mistake is not checking the earnings record regularly. Seniors trust that if something were wrong, SSA would notify them quickly. But as we've seen, errors often surface years later, when corrections are hardest to fight and recovery is most aggressive. The third mistake is ignoring or delaying response to SSA mail. Overpayment letters are not reminders. They are triggers. Missing a deadline doesn't just slow the process. It removes your leverage entirely. None of these mistakes involve fraud. They involve assumptions, assuming silence means safety, assuming time will fix problems, assuming SSA will correct itself. Under the 2026 rules, these assumptions are no longer harmless. They are the difference between partial hardship and losing your entire check. Avoiding these mistakes doesn't require expertise. It requires attention. What to do? The moment you receive an overpayment notice, if there is one moment when every senior must slow down but act carefully, it's this one. The day you receive an overpayment notice from Social Security. That letter is not informational, it is not optional, and it is not something to deal with later. The first thing to do is read the notice completely, not just the amount. Look for dates, reasons, and, most importantly, deadlines. The clock usually starts ticking the day the letter is issued, not the day you open it. Second, do not call immediately in a panic. Calling without preparation often leads to confusion and no record. Instead, gather documents first, pay stubs, W-2s, prior SSA letters, and proof of income reporting. Third, decide quickly whether you need to appeal, request a waiver, or both. These options have different forms and different legal meanings. Missing the 60-day window can allow full withholding to begin automatically. Fourth, submit everything in writing and keep copies. If you speak to SSA, write down the date, time, and name of the representative. Verbal conversations alone do not protect you. Finally, understand this. Doing nothing is treated as agreement. Once withholding starts under the 2026 rules, stopping it becomes much harder. This moment is not about blame, it's about response. How you act in the first few weeks often determines whether you lose part of your check or all of it. How to request a waiver and when it actually works for many seniors. The word waiver sounds like a guarantee. If I ask for a waiver, they won't take my money. That is not always true. A waiver is not a negotiation. It is a legal request asking Social Security to forgive the overpayment entirely. And it only works if two conditions are clearly met. First, the overpayment must be not your fault. That means no intentional misreporting, no ignored notices, and no failure to disclose income you knew should be reported. System delays, clerical errors, or employer reporting problems often qualify, but you must prove it. Second, repayment must cause financial hardship. SSA looks at your income, expenses, assets, and basic living needs. If repaying would prevent you from paying rent, utilities, or medical costs, that matters, but it must be documented. This is where many waiver requests fail. Seniors submit the form without evidence, or they assume hardship is obvious. SSA does not assume, it evaluates paperwork. Another critical detail, requesting a waiver can temporarily stop withholding, but only if it's filed correctly and on time. Miss the deadline, and withholding may continue during review. A waiver is powerful, but only when used properly. It is not automatic, it is not emotional, it is procedural. Understanding when a waiver works, and when it doesn't, helps seniors avoid false hope and prepare real protection. The final warning, why SSA will fix it, is no longer safe. As we close, there is one belief that has quietly protected seniors for decades. If something is wrong, Social Security will fix it. In 2026, that belief becomes dangerous. The new rules make one thing clear. SSA is no longer focused on protecting monthly income. It is focused on recovering money. And when those two goals conflict, recovery comes first. This does not mean SSA is acting with bad intent. It means the system has changed priorities. Under these rules, silence does not protect you, time does not protect you, and good faith alone does not protect you. What protects seniors now is documentation, awareness, and fast response. If your records are wrong, they will not be corrected automatically. If your income was misreported, it may be discovered years later. And if an overpayment is declared, the default action is no longer negotiation. It is full withholding. This shift places responsibility where it has never fully been before, on the beneficiary. That is the reality seniors must adapt to. The goal is not fear. The goal is readiness. Check your records. Keep proof. Read every letter, and never assume that no news means no risk. In 2026, protection does not come from trust alone. It comes from preparation.